Good morning. So I'm making a video about tools. I'll make this one, see if there's any interest, and go from there. So I had mentors and teachers later in life that showed me tools. These are the ones I use, they work. I often learned them in a state of distress, and so I was highly motivated to practice and see if it worked. So I'll show you what the tool is, my application, how I do it, and maybe get into why it works or doesn't work, or at least why it works for me. And so you can see if it fits you. If it does, great. If not, leave it. So this tool is to say what we want, how we're thinking, how we're feeling, wanting. Say what it is instead of what we don't want, don't like, shouldn't, couldn't, wouldn't, all that. And just focus on this is what I want, and here it is. So my experience is that if I think about and then say, communicate what I want, I'm more likely to get it than if I talk about what I don't want, or if I stay silent and don't say anything. And my recent experience with this is I've been on dating apps, and I've seen sometimes there'll be a sentence or two, or the entire profile just be about what they don't want, what they don't like, what they're trying to get rid of, stay away from. And while this approach can rule out a handful, maybe even many things as a signal of what they don't want, there are still thousands, maybe millions, billions of possibilities of what they could want or do want. And I want everyone to get their needs met, a win-win. And I need to know what you want in order for me to give it to you, to have that win-win. You know, if I am uncertain or confused or say silent about what I want, how is the other person supposed to possibly know what I want? And a practical example of this is everyone I've ever hung out with, when we're hungry, we get fed. We might start off wanting a super fancy, tasty meal cooked by a Michelin chef in some 5-star restaurant in a beautiful setting, and then end up eating some mystery food from a gas station. And while often I do get the meal I choose, sometimes I get the underlying need, which is just to feed the hunger. And a recent surfing example of this is we had some swell, 2 back-to-back Good South swells, haven't been swell in a while. So the choice is, do we chase down the swell on the coast or wait for the wind to come up in the bay? And 2 days, the coast option was the best choice. Sunny, good waves, friends, fun rides. And then the 3rd day, foggy, swell disappeared. And so 4th day, the swell's still pumping, but the wind is iffy, the fog is iffy, the conditions, you know, it could end up not getting in there. Maybe the angle changed. So when making the decision, my practice is to pause and to ask myself, what do I really want? And then often I close my eyes and I go within, and it's essentially like a meditation. And I run through visually in my mind the steps of the possible outcomes, you know, getting the stuff together, getting in a vehicle if that's it, driving if that's part of it. What does the drive feel like? Is it going to be pretty? Is it going to be lots of traffic? Am I going to have to get up super early? Is it going to be simple? So visually, step by step by step, and running that through in my mind, I get an idea of what it's going to be like, and the decision becomes easier to make because I've run through what it's probably going to be like. And often I found just doing that process, I get to the point where one of those steps in there, either it feels great, I'm like, all right, easy decision, let's go. Or like, man, that sounds not that great. Like that, just a lot of work for a little reward. And then the decision also becomes obvious. It's the same process as going to a restaurant or grocery store and asking, what do I want to eat? You know, if I listen to my body, there'll be a feeling, a taste bud, a craving, some ingredient. Maybe it's salty, sweet, you know, thick and hearty, maybe hot, maybe cold. And usually there'll be some body or signal that'll come to me as to what to try or what I want to eat. Or I might see the item on the menu and instantly start salivating and like, oh wow, that sounds so good, and know right away. Or be like, I don't know, I don't like mushrooms or whatever, I'm not going to eat that. And then I run down the list on the menu until eventually something sounds good. Or maybe it all doesn't sound that great, and I just pick the least yucky option. Or maybe the restaurant doesn't sound good at all, and I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna cruise over to the grocery store and pick out something, or get an apple, or go to the farm stand, or maybe I rummage through the vehicle and find some old jerky. Or the options will come to me if I run through what it is and listen to my body, or listen to whatever my inner craving is. And with surfing, maybe all the possibilities don't sound fun. The surf is flat, there's no wind, it's just Lake Pacific. And so the options might need to be completely different. As in, instead of focusing on the want, the ideal, I go back to the need. I might just need fresh air. I might need some sunshine. I might just need to move, to exercise. Maybe just jumping in the water is enough. Maybe I need some socialization, just being around people, whether it's friends or strangers, just out. Or maybe it's animals, seeing the birds, the seals, talking to dogs, whatever it is. But if I listen kind of what I need, or maybe draw on previous experience of like, how did I feel after I jumped in the water? If I set the bar to something that is achievable right now, today, and then say, okay, well, I feel better if I do that. In the past I have, or maybe I don't know the outcome, and so I'll try it. Maybe it feels good, maybe it doesn't. Then I'll have another data point for next time. And when I started surfing, foiling, wing foiling, all of it, I sucked. I wasn't any good. And through repetition and practice and evaluating my technique, I eventually figured it out and it became easy. So it's the same thing with either staying silent or focusing on what I don't want. I could focus on, I'm going to fall. I could focus on failing, or surfing's too hard, or I could focus on all that, or I could just get out of my own way and go spend more time on the water. Again, repetition, keep trying and eventually build up the skills, the muscle memory, the autopilot to do what I do want instead of what I don't. And sometimes when someone asks me what I want, I'm reluctant to answer. I'm afraid I'll be criticized, or my answer will be judged, shamed, blamed, or maybe worst of all, I'll be told I don't deserve it, that I'm not worthy and I should just give up and go away. And one tool I can do here is first acknowledge that that's what's going on inside me. That's what I am feeling. And then I can speak to the person, I'm reluctant to answer, or I'm afraid that my answer won't be good enough, or you won't like it. And the person might respond saying, okay, I hear you. I promise I won't criticize. I'll just listen. And then I can evaluate whether I believe them or not, whether it sounds sincere. And if it does, then I can go ahead and say it. If not, I can be like, I don't know. I still feel like I'm going to get hammered here. I'm reluctant to share. And if this becomes a pattern, if the person we're talking to repeatedly agrees not to criticize, or maybe they don't even agree, they just do it automatically, that is probably a sign that I either need to reevaluate what I'm asking for. Maybe it's completely out of line with reality or what's possible. Or maybe the person I'm speaking to just can't meet me there and I need to find somebody else who can. And sometimes it's as simple as format or syntax, or like the language, the words I'm using, or the suggestion that's been offered to me by a mentor or teacher sounds foreign. It doesn't sound me. If I say it, it won't ring true. It might sound good coming out of their mouth, but when I say it, it'll sound ridiculous, or I'll feel foolish. And maybe a silly example is slang. Like as a older person, if I use the slang from my youth, it sounds ridiculous. It doesn't fit. It doesn't sound right. Or if I try to pick up new slang of whatever the kids are saying these days, it might sound silly or wrong, and vice versa. And so it's about just essentially translating the words into language that I use that sounds natural or feels right when I say it. And sometimes I'll get pulled away from what I really want into what someone else finds appealing. Maybe the invitation is to go surf somewhere, and to them it sounds great, and the way they say it, their enthusiasm, all that might kind of pull me in that direction, even though if I go back within, I'm like, that just doesn't, that's not me. I can tell that you love that, but I don't think I'll have fun doing that. And same with relationships. Sometimes I'll see a profile and something about the woman will be appealing, and then I'll read, what they're wanting or looking for, and I'll be like, maybe, I'll be tempted to like go along with that out of whatever it is, whether it's desperation, desire, or just it sounds good in the moment. But then if I pause and I go in and I run through the scenario, the steps, I'll either get to a place where I'll say, oh, okay, that does work for me. Or there'll be some part of it when I actually visualize it, think it through, and role play, I'll be like, no way, that's not what I'm interested in. And then I'll be able to refocus on what I do want instead of going for what I don't want because it's easy or available right this minute. I stay focused on what I do want, and I'll move in that direction instead of getting sidetracked and then have to, undo all that. Maybe in a bad relationship or in a surfing spot I don't want to go to, I have to leave, pack up my gear, I have to get out of the relationship and then get back on track to where I want to go. So to summarize, for me, when I am saying what I want, I think of it as empowerment, as a step, a tool, a direction towards actually getting what I want. And when I'm on the receiving end of someone else's request, when they say what they don't want, don't like, I feel confused, I'm frustrated, I have no idea what they want or how to give it to them. And so the goal is for both of us to communicate what we do want and to be able to give an honest way to meet that, or tell them flat out, I can't do that. You're better off finding someone who can, because that's not something I can provide. And then it's clear, and then we can make rational choices and move towards what we really want. And then hopefully the whole world is doing that, and we all get our needs met, and it's a wonderful, happy, joyful place, and we're all feel loved and good to go. Thank you for watching. Please comment below if this was helpful, if you like the format, if you'd like to see a different format, if you want to hear more or you need to have more details, maybe look in the description. I'll put links to some of this stuff that for further reading or for further looking into it. And if this doesn't work for you, if you don't like it, now's an opportunity to practice what I just talked about in the video and say below in the comments what you do want, what you'd like to see differently. And so thank you, and I hope to see you out there soon.